To become a professional athlete, you need physical fitness, luck, and a whole lot of hard work. Unfortunately, many athletes are forced to forego a basic education so that they can focus exclusively on athletics. This works out well in the short term when they are offered contracts for mind-boggling amounts, often right out of high school. But the sad truth is that many of these athletes have a price to pay later in life. Uneducated and without even the most basic financial literacy, many athletes lose tens of millions of dollars in the span of a few short years. Today, we're counting down the top athletes that went broke. Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is both a pop culture icon and one of the most celebrated boxers in the sport's history. In 1986, he became the youngest heavyweight champion ever at just 20 years old and seemed unstoppable for almost a decade, winning an astonishing 58 fights. At the height of his career, he had amassed a startling $300 million and had the potential to keep earning well into his 30s. But those familiar with Tyson's personal life know that he struggled with bouts of violence and reckless spending. In 1992, Tyson served 3 years in prison on a rape conviction. During a 1997 fight, he famously bit a large part of Evander Holyfield's ear off. Tyson developed a cocaine habit and blew money on cars, mansions, and prostitutes. By 2003, Tyson filed for bankruptcy. Not only did he burn through the massive fortune, according to reports, the boxer was more than $23 million in debt. This began a long chain of rehabs and institutions that lasted for 10 years. Since then, Tyson has started an acting career in the Hangover franchise and the Mike Tyson's Mysterious television show. In addition, he has just released an autobiography, but Tyson has stated in interviews that he is just now getting back on his feet. Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield is another boxing legend with an impressive history. He had 160 career wins, including 76 by knockouts, and he was well compensated for each one. In the infamous bite fight with Mike Tyson, he was paid $34 million. By conservative estimates, Holyfield earned more than $560 million. On top of all this, he had a Diet Coke endorsement, a video game, a record label, a signature grill, appeared on numerous TV shows, and 3 films. But just like Tyson, he found a way to spend it all. In 2008, Holyfield's $10 million home was repossessed by the bank, prompting a torrent of accusations. A landscaping company claimed that Holyfield owed them more than $550,000 for unpaid work, and a court ordered him to pay $9,000 in child support. And therein lies the problem. Aside from irresponsible spending habits, Holyfield fathered 11 children with 9 different women. When their numbers were finally tallied, they realized that Holyfield owed over $500,000 to his various mistresses and ex-wives. Of course, there were factors besides child support that pushed Holyfield to bankruptcy, but it was certainly a huge contributor. Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen is one of the biggest names in basketball. He was instrumental in helping Michael Jordan bring the Chicago Bulls 6 NBA championships in the 90s. He was a part of the Olympic Dream Team with Patrick Ewing, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan, among others. They famously dominated the 1992 Olympics, winning games by an average of 44 points. Unlike other athletes, Pippen didn't diversify his career beyond sports, but he still retired with a respectable $120 million. After this, Pippen evaded a career in broadcasting and largely stayed out of the spotlight. In 2011, Pippen made headlines for foreclosing on not one, but 2 mansions at the same time, with a combined value of over $20 million. At the same time, his $4 million private jet was grounded and repossessed. Though he obviously made some extravagant purchases, in this case, Pippen's financial woes were not the result of overspending. After an exhaustive investigation, authorities realized that Robert Lunn, his financial advisor, had been embezzling millions of dollars from Pippen since the 90s. Lunn had been recommended to Pippen by the Chicago Bulls, which made it even more shocking when he was imprisoned 3 years on multiple fraud accounts, including forging Pippen's signature on multiple million-dollar checks. Though Pippen's lawsuit against Lunn was successful, he only got a fraction of the settlement he deserved and is still dealing with the massive financial burden. Michael Vick. Michael Vick is as famous for his on-field triumphs as he is for his off-field tribulations. He was the first overall draft pick in 2001, and he holds the record for the most career rushing yards by a quarterback and the most rushing yards by a quarterback in a season. At the height of his career, he signed a $100 million contract with the Atlanta Falcons. This was in addition to highly lucrative contracts with Coca-Cola, Nike, and Hasbro. But everything changed in 2007 when Vick was convicted for involvement in a dogfighting ring. Vick was accused of financing the operation, directly participating in dogfights and executions, and personally handling thousands of dollars in related gambling activities. Of course, this annulled his corporate contracts and led to a 3-year prison sentence, during which time he had no source of income. Things only got worse for Vick. Though he got a second chance and was soon earning an average of $25 million a season, it didn't take him long to get back into trouble. A financial advisor helped Vick from 2003 to 2005, but resigned after Vick took bad advice from his friends, made ill-conceived investments, overspent, and otherwise undermined the wealth-building plan that he had created. Though the advisor's plan was for Vick to have a net wealth of $100 million by 2010, by that date, Vick was actually an estimated $20 million in debt. By 2008, things had spiraled out of control, and Vick filed for bankruptcy, more than $50 million in debt. Diego Maradona. Many fans consider Diego Maradona to be the greatest soccer player of all time. He was revered for his skill, ball handling, and speed with many international clubs, most famously with FC Barcelona and Napoli. He set the record twice for the highest-paid soccer player in the world and continued an extremely successful career as a coach and a businessman. His current salary is $3 million a year, and he recently opened a popular nightclub in Belarus. But things have not always been so stable for Maradona. From the mid-1980s until 2004, Maradona was hopelessly addicted to cocaine. He allegedly began using the drug in Barcelona in 1983. By the time he was playing for Napoli, he had a regular addiction, which began to interfere with his ability to play football. Years of counseling succeeded in getting him sober, but not without taking its toll. In addition, Maradona had a tendency to put on weight and suffered increasingly from obesity, at one point weighing 280 pounds. In 2005, he received a gastric bypass surgery and was put on an all-liquid diet. His issues extended beyond his health as well. Though he maintained a comfortable salary across his career, it was revealed that Maradona had failed to pay taxes for more than a decade and owed the government more than $50 million, much more than his current net worth. Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was one of the greatest basketball players of all time. His larger-than-life personality made him famous both on and off the court. He was named the NBA MVP in 2001, was an 11-time NBA All-Star, and had a career average of 29.7 points, second only to Michael Jordan, and all this despite being only 6 feet tall. Apart from his athletic success, Iverson has multiple run-ins with the law, pleading guilty to drug charges in 1997, and facing several abuse charges over the years. He managed to get out of those predicaments largely unscathed, but things intensified for Iverson in 2008 when he divorced his wife and revealed that he was penniless. Though the specifics of his debt were never made public, it was apparent that Iverson did not have enough money to pay child support, despite making roughly $21 million a year. Those close to him have blamed this on his wild spending habits, including buying new clothes in every city he visits, rather than packing old ones. In the end, it turns out Iverson knows himself better than anyone else. With Reebok, he arranged for a $30 million trust fund to be set up in his name. The only issue is, it won't be accessible until 2030. Antoine Walker. Antoine Walker had a successful career in the NBA for more than 20 years. He played with the Celtics, Mavericks, Heat, Hawks, and Timberwolves, and won a league championship with the Miami Heat in 2006. Unfortunately, Walker is as famous for his legal and financial troubles as he is for his basketball accolades. Between 2009 and 2010, Walker got a DUI and was charged with 6 counts of fraud for writing checks that he could not cash due to a gambling debt. In the end, he dodged most of these legal issues, but after suffering multiple armed robberies, in which he lost sports cars and expensive merchandise, Walker was forced to file for bankruptcy in 2010. His 4 homes were auctioned off, and Walker even needed to sell his championship ring to make ends meet. After making $108 million over his career, it was hard to tell where all the money went, but Walker later revealed he had issues with drinking and gambling. George Best. George Best was one of the UK's first celebrity soccer players, In 1968, he won the European Cup with Manchester United and was named the European Footballer of the Year. Though he was born in Belfast, Northern Ireland, he was most famous for his tenure with Manchester United. After making his debut at age 17, he scored 179 goals from 470 appearances over 11 years. Without a doubt, Best is one of the most impressive soccer players in history, but his subsequent extravagant lifestyle led to various problems, most notably alcoholism, which he suffered from for the rest of his life. These issues affected him on and off the field, at times causing controversy. He said of his career, "I spent a lot of money on booze, women, and fast cars. The rest I just squandered." Though he continued a career as a commentator, Best never got control of his drinking, eventually receiving 2 separate liver transplants and dying penniless in 2005, having lost a $100 million fortune. Vin Baker. Vin Baker was considered a wayfarer basketball star because he played with so many teams across the league. Over a 20-year career, Baker played with the Bucks, Supersonics, Celtics, Rockets, Knicks, Clippers, and Timberwolves. Though he was a solid player, unfortunately, he is equally known for squandering his fortune in just a few years. Though he made well over $100 million during his career, Baker began to spend it recklessly soon after retiring in 2006. A DUI in 2007 made matters even worse. By 2008, his $2.5 million home had been foreclosed on, and the year after that, he sued his former financial firm for mismanaging his accounts. In the end, he was left to work his way out of debt independently. As recently as 2015, Baker was managing at a Starbucks in Connecticut just to pay rent. But things may be looking up for Baker. In 2018, he accepted a job assistant coaching for the Milwaukee Bucks. Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens is one of the most talented wide receivers ever to play football. Owens holds several NFL records. Over 16 seasons, his 15,934 career receiving yards ranked second in NFL history, and his 153 receiving touchdowns ranked third. While he was one of the best players of his era, Owens also created a significant amount of controversy during his professional career, and also attracted attention for his flamboyant touchdown celebrations. They were so ostentatious that the NFL made rules specifically limiting the ways in which a player can celebrate, and his wild lifestyle continued off the field as well. Owens almost died of an opioid overdose in 2006, but he was rushed to a hospital 4 blocks away and survived the incident. Although he made much more than $80 million as both a player and broadcaster, in 2012, Owens was forced to file for bankruptcy, citing bad investments, a collapsed housing market, and some $50,000 worth of monthly child support payments. That's all for this top trending video. Check out our page for more content.